Go. All right, we should be recording. I'm going to start us up at 8:02 Eastern, 7:02 Central. And let me talk amongst yourselves for just a second.
Hi, this is Gail Bachelor, and we're having a camera crisis. So I just may be, like our camera is normally work. So I'm here, I may be, incognito, but I'm here.
I see a nice dresser, but not you.
Yeah, no,
I know.
the camera is not working at all. I think you may have to just turn it off.
I think
tonight.
our cleaning lady just like wiped out the entire.
I'm just gonna
thing.
turn that off. I'm just gonna go by.
Yeah, we're gonna just go
Just talk.
incognito. I'm here. Hi,
Okay.
hi, Bob.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hi,
We're good. We're good.
Good.
We missed your summer outing. We missed.
Yeah, I feel bad about that. Next year, I will figure out a date very early and pin it down so that our clubhouse doesn't get occupied. And frankly, the couple of openings I had this summer, the clubhouse was booked both days, Saturday and Sunday. As the grandkids get older, there are more and more demands on, will you come see this and that? So,
well, I'm just saying is we like Saugatuck's one of my favorite places, but that's fine. I'm sure the grandchildren are keeping you very busy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was keeping us open just in case a few more people came in. I might still need to let people in, but I do want to go ahead and introduce our special guest, Yvette Gonzalez. So Yvette, I'm just going to kind of read your bio that you sent me. Yvette Gonzalez, Master in Public Health that's right, isn't it? MPH? I can't see. I'm trying to.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right. We're informal here. You probably figured that.
Good.
Master in Public Health is a visiting researcher at the University of Plymouth, Faculty of Health, and a spaceflight and bioastronautics researcher. She is an external collaborator for the Space Omics and Medical Atlas team, as well as for the European Space Agency Strategic Foresight Committee. In 2021, she was invited to join the Explorers Club as part of the Women's 16, a group of 16 women explorers honoring the 40th anniversary of the first 16 women who joined the Explorers Club. This distinction honored her as one of these extraordinary women of the new millennium. In 2023, she served as crew executive officer and research lead for the first ever space research caving analog in Portugal. And is that Camões?
Yeah, Camões.
Say it again.
Camões.
Camões. I always forget with the Portuguese. Supporting a suite of human health experiments. This was also a flag expedition for Flag 72 and was featured in the Winter 23-24 Explorers Log Volume 6, Number 1. She carries out atmospheric and climate research expeditions in locations such as Africa, the Arctic, specifically Svalbard, so you'll have to talk to Bob Schuckman about that, and high latitude locations. Her project, Sky Indicators, X Climate, Times Climate?
And Climate.
And Climate, okay. Was a recipient of the Explorers Club and Exodus Travel's inaugural grant, Exploration Without Boundaries. She is an inaugural member of the newly formed Portugal Explorers Club chapter. In addition to annual parabolic flight campaign research, her space medical and human health research efforts include contributions to neuroscience and ophthalmologic team experiments on the Axiom 2, Polaris Dawn, which just happened, and Virgin Galactic Gal 05, which also was very recent, spaceflight missions. She is co-author of a newly released book, Neuroscience Research in Short Duration Human Spaceflight, which offers a groundbreaking neuroscience portfolio. Yvette is pioneering research in applied space medical solutions for humanity and progresses this research within the context of international emergency public health, astronaut health, and astronautics training. She is a trained opera singer, enjoys trapeze, watercolor artist, creates blackout poetry, and published her first poetry ebook this year. So I am very delighted to introduce my friend, Yvette Gonzalez. So
Hi, everyone.
And I'm letting more people in. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited. I'm typically based out of Berlin and I just moved back a week and a half ago to Arizona. So I'm still adjusting and acclimating, and I'm so excited that this is kind of my first meetup being back stateside. So very nice to meet all of you. Can I share my screen?
I have to make you co-host and I will do that right now.
Okay.
Boom.
So I'm going to share
Okay.
mostly
you-
some really nice pictures, but I'm going to share a little bit about this journey. And I probably can't see myself while I'm doing this, but let's see. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. I think coming into the Explorers Club community has been really, for me, something really wonderful, because my entire lived experience has been kind of just what I wanted to give back to humanity. And it's my definition of exploration. And so I see exploration as its own laboratory for humanity. And that, in fact, doing it with intention and bringing pieces of that back to actually apply to other uses, and to help communities is really something that I honor and that I really hold precious in my work. So I want to start with a land acknowledgement. I am Native American. I'm an ancestor. I'm a descendant of Aztec and Mexica ancestors. And I gratefully acknowledge the indigenous peoples past, present, and emerging, on whose ancestral homelands we gather or are currently located, as well as all the diverse and vibrant indigenous stewards of land, skies, stars, and water. And today I'm joining you from Gilbert, Arizona, which is the land of the Acapulco Odham and the Hohokam nations. So I wanted to share with you a bit of my brief history, because I think it's important when we meet each other as humans that we know where we came from, that we know what shapes our perspective and what shapes the way that we explore the world. And so I'm from El Paso, Texas. That's where I mostly grew up. I'm sure many of you are familiar or maybe have been. Yeah, and if you've also been to a space flight with, Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic, this is kind of the home base. But I grew up in an era where my uncles, my aunts, my dad all worked at the White Sands Missile Range and as contractors for NASA. And so it was very much geologic and Apollo and Gemini space program training ground. It is a crossroads of cultures and certainly made me want to go to the stars. So early on, I definitely wanted to be an astronaut, but I didn't want to be in the military. So I wanted to do something else to give back. And I wanted to work with people. I wanted to work with communities. And so my first career was to be a humanitarian. I use that word now, but it is international development. So I started in Congo. That was really in earnest the very first assignment I got. And this was my first exposure outside of the Americas, really going outside of the world and being able to see the world. And Congo was very eye-opening for me, because it wasn't what you would call exploration in a traditional sense. Like I didn't go to discover the country itself, but I did get very immersed quickly in the reality of what humans were experiencing and what was happening in this area and what the history of exploration had done in this area. And so there was this vivid experience of what happened between nature and people and limited resources. Soon after, I ended up going to Somalia. And in Somalia, I was working on they call it biosecurity, the State Department. And it was working with veterinarian alternatives to working with camels to create secondary markets for women and children and communities in this barren land. And that was to avoid making anthrax with camel, because that's what anthrax is made from. So in this community, it was also a learning curve about what are limited resources in this barren land. And I think it was also the first time, even when we were flying in, that I thought, who would have decided this is a place to put humans? Like what humans decided this was an arid, hostile, lack of water area to make a home. And I was very struck by that. But then these communities were so warm and inviting, and quite marvel at how much they did with so little. years later, I skipped like many countries, most recently, and I show this because this was 2019 Hurricane Dorian. This was the last in-person response I did. I've been working kind of behind the scenes now, but the last in-person one was for the Bahamas. And I don't know if you can hear the sound, but I was one of the first responders to this community. This is like 2 days after the water receded, and coming into this community, there was nothing left. There was 12 people from this community who survived. And we thought there was no one there, but when we arrived, there were 12 people. And then we had boats arrive to give them generators, water, food, and quite frankly, for them to start salvaging what was left of their life. But a lot of people here didn't leave because they have this strong attachment to a place. And the island, as you see here on the left, that's actually the mangroves that were tossed out of the ocean, which I've never quite seen. So we were pretty devastated driving by miles of mangroves that were just uprooted. And we worked with groups there that were both conserving the environment and also rebuilding homes and salvaging after the families survived from this. So it was really interesting to kind of experience that, because what we did was we used a lot of information from Planet Labs and from other satellite in order to track people and homes. And it was the first time a lot of the context from the ministry had used satellite data and remote sensing to track debris and track people and to make decisions based on what they saw from space. And I thought, how can we bring these together, right? How can we bring these? And I thought, well, I want to explore, but what does that mean to me? It meant something broader. I really, at this time, like 2018, 2017, really thought, what can I do that's beyond humanitarian work and exploring the world with that lens? What else can I do to give back to humanity, and what more is there I can do? And so I joined an institute, an astronautics institute, and started to train. And I wanted to see how my skill set came over to the space industry, but also what new sets of skills could I apply to. And because I had an MPH, they asked if I wanted to be a spacesuit technician and look at human biomonitoring and how people thrive within a spacesuit. And I got trained in Canada to do that. But the Institute also took us through NASA astronaut training with the NASA trainers. And here, I mean, it includes even the Apollo site. If you recognize this, this is Flagstaff, just north of Flagstaff, between the Grand Canyon and Flagstaff, SP crater. And this is where NASA currently and has always trained the Artemis astronauts, the Apollo astronauts, for its geologic diversity. And pretty much you get like a master's level in geology or planetary geology. Now, one of the members who was there of the Institute was also an Explorers Club member. And I blame him for bringing many of us into the club. And so, unbeknownst to me, he proposed me for the EC50, but that year was the 40th anniversary, and they created this other group, which I was extremely honored, and still the other 15 women and I are very close. And it coming in that perspective was really kind of like a whirlwind. So we were invited in. Immediately, I was, part of one of the first webinars for women in space. And then I applied for and am grateful that I got the inaugural Exodus Travels Exploration Without Boundaries grant, which was for Indigenous researchers. And so I got to support a lot of the work I'm doing in climate. But the first real expedition under the umbrella of the Explorers Club for me was the caving analog. And this is with, I have to say, there's a bridge between my institute, the Astronautics Institute, and the Explorers Club, because most of the members are in both. And one of the members, she really pulled this together. This is my home that I had last November for 7 days and 6 nights. And this is the cave. And we set out to do simultaneous geoscience, astrobiology, and human health experiments akin to the moon and aligned with a science suite of goals that aligned with Artemis. So we were trying to see. And we had advisors from NASA's Artemis team and from ESA. And so it was really important that everything we did was high fidelity, and everything we did mattered for application after. So we were a flag expedition. We're really proud of that. And Richard Garriott and the team, when we were at GLEX, you know, we announced it then, and then at GLEX this year, we got to showcase our results. But it was really meaningful to know that researchers, academics, explorers could all come together and do such an impactful expedition that was, you know, multifaceted. And the team will be writing a book, a Springer book, and my team at the University of Plymouth is also publishing work on the human health aspect. And just one example of what I was doing biomonitoring. I was doing an eye research investigation with the changes in the eye and the darkness, and this jaw experiment, which became very popular because everybody had dots in their face, to look at stress over time, like in confinement and in darkness. Does that change? And will in the future we be able to track with AI and some wearables the amount of stress that we are taking on in these missions? And does that affect our microbiome? And will it affect our eating? And will that have other detrimental effects on astronaut health? So we're excited to share that very soon. And simultaneous to that, on 4 different research teams that I just went out, I contacted, I wanted to be part of them, and they allowed me to be part of their teams conducting research in space. And all of it is human health. So the Virgin Galactic 05 was last year. And that's actually a picture of our flight. And I was in charge as the PI for the Biomonitor. That's a Canadian company that created it. And it has sensors for heart monitoring. So it's heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen saturation. And the unique thing we did, this has been on the station and astronauts have used it, but no one has worn it during takeoff, re-entry, and landing. And so we were really excited to see what happens to the human body during that high G force and acceleration, what happens in microgravity, and what's the transition profile of an astronaut. And can we real time monitor on a monitor what's happening in case there's something wrong, we can mitigate quickly, right? So I'm analyzing that. Well, no, I've analyzed. I'm writing up the papers now. So
I'm interrupting you for a second, but we lost your video, and I thought at first it was on purpose, but then you seem to be referring to the slide. So
okay.
I don't know what happened, but it just kind of disappeared.
Well, I will unshare and then reshare.
Okay.
Share. Well, there?
Nope. Do you see it, Zan? Maybe I'm just the only one. How many of us can see it?
I can see
Yeah,
it.
I can see it. I lost her for about 20 seconds, but then she came back, and
Okay.
it's 5x5 now. So
Okay, I can't see it, but I'll have you go ahead. I don't know why I can't see it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Just, yeah, let me know next time. I'll stop and show it.
Doug and I can see it, so.
Yeah?
I don't
Okay.
know.
Let me go
I
forward.
Ron can see it.
Okay, cool.
I can
So I'll
see
pick it from
people
the
with dots on
Biomonitor.
their faces.
Okay, well, I'm going to forward to the Biomonitor. Can you see it?
yes,
So this is the Virgin Galactic. Okay, great. And actually you can purchase this, right? But this is now what we're using to monitor health, and we'll have it on a few other flights in the future as well. So I'll be publishing these papers, and when they're ready, I can always share a link, and they'll be open source. So this is actually Kelly Girardi. She was the astronaut who wore it. She and I have been working together for 7 years and testing this in microgravity. And so it was really nice. She has it on under this flight suit. So she's carrying out many passive experiments. And so we're really excited to share the outcomes from that. And then Axiom 2, which I'm obviously like so proud of. So Axiom 2, we did a suite with a team of like 20 researchers around the world, but led by a Saudi Arabian research institute. And we worked with the Saudi astronauts, and they carried out all of these experiments, which were multiple pieces of equipment, because we wanted to see, one, the changes in short duration spaceflight, 10 days. Is there impact by gender, age, It's a small cohort, but we still had this fantastic cohort. And then is there a benefit to using multiple pieces of equipment? Do we get more efficient? Does it just, is it redundant? And so our book that just came out is now sharing the results from that. So, and in fact, I have it. It's this little tiny, beautiful thing. And we're really proud because we did it under 2 years. So, and I will say in the world of research, that's really phenomenal. So we're excited to share that. And now we are going to conferences talking about the outcomes and the impact. And then of course, Polaris Dawn. How many of you saw the Polaris Dawn EVA, the standing EVA? Yeah.
Yes.
Exciting. So for us, and I'll let you know, like when you put in an experiment to space, some of you might know, it takes a year or two ahead of time to plan, make sure there's no hazards, make sure you're prepped for whatever is going to happen on that flight. And when we first submitted our eye experiment, our pupilometer, they were like, oh, is this prepared for the vacuum of space? And we're like, what? We're like, no. So we had to get prepared for that. So we knew very early on that there was going to be an EVA, which was so exciting for us. And in fact, they did a video where that's our device that's in their hand, the pupilometer. And it was something they just every day they measured their eyes and we could see distinct changes day by day in the astronaut eyes. And again, here we also had the privilege to have the two genders to see, because a lot of what we're testing is, are there changes that are different in women versus men? So right now we're waiting for that data to come back, and we will be also publishing that within the next year. So we're really excited to see what happened when they all got exposed to space. So why does that matter back on Earth, right? Obviously, I was not in any of those space flights, and I haven't gone to space yet. So I really rely on accurate data. Our teams are extremely, we work very close with the medical teams, we close with the astronauts so that we know we get the right information, because we want to use it back here on Earth. We're not investing for that to kind of like be only applicable to space. So part of what I do on Earth, I guess it's twofold. I really care about the state of the planet. And so I do my climate research, and then I really care about the state of people on the planet, not just planetary health, but people health. And so that's why I do my bioastronautics and health research, and I'm combining them. So the Exodus Travels grant I got from Explorers Club was for my climate project. And basically we do ground observations of noctilucent clouds. And noctilucent clouds can be seen in the summer. There is like a really short period of time where you can see them. They're upper atmospheric, and they call them ice clouds or night shining clouds. Have any of you seen them before? I think you guys are at a high enough latitude that you could. But they're very distinct because they look like water in the sky. But they happen close to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and it's because the sun has to be at a distinct angle to reflect off of them. And then they just look like waves of water. They're beautiful. And what we were doing was trying to bring this community of 10,000 citizen scientists onto one app so that we could create an app with this grant. And so we were collecting data, putting it in an app, and then we did a report for Explorers Club, which I can share with you at some point. So it's a really short magazine I put together of our results and the impact. And the app we created, which we put into beta, is now going to be combined with the NASA Globe app, because we decided, why would you need to have a separate app if there's already one app with NASA that has like the other clouds? We might as well have that included. So we're pretty excited to get this kind of integrated. And once it's integrated, even more people can just go and contribute their photos, their videos across the world. And then NASA holds the database. It's open science for everyone. And then I met the EC50 explorers who did the 19-month overwinter in the Svalbard. And they invited us, a group, to the Arctic last September, and kind of retracing their trip, but then going to the hut, their home, where they stayed for 19 months. So the great opportunity with this was that I got to do my atmospheric work. I got to do my upper atmospheric photography, and I got to do my soil sampling to kind of match atmospheric and geological changes and transformation in the Arctic to atmospheric carbon dioxide and methane levels. So I'm still working on that. But it was really just this opportunity to be in a place on Earth that, quite frankly, as probably some of you have been and know, is not the same as seeing it on TV or in the news or in a picture. Like being there is just far more, I would say it impacts your soul in a different way. And to see it confronted is something that's really magical. And as you can see here, oh, actually, that was the Canadian chapter that they did a flag expedition. So that's the Canadian chapter that led the expedition here. And this is not me doing any work. This is me looking for polar bears. Because I was distinctly curious and didn't want to get eaten. So, yeah. And the last expedition I did was to Tromsø, and that was also solar science, looking at the changes in solar activity and how that impacts the magnetosphere. And that was with another colleague from the Astronautics Institute, Adrian Modry, who is like the lead solar science aurora photographer in Norway. And he took us, our team, our Sky Indicators team, through Finland, Sweden, Norway, chasing quite literally the aurora. And this was my first photo of the aurora and experience. And I share that at the end because despite the things I've seen in humanitarian crisis, you know, the wars, I lived in Afghanistan for extended time and you know, and all these contexts, the application of technology to these kind of crises are really vital. And when I explore and when I'm actually traveling around the world, it has meaning. I make sure like my intent is, what am I going to learn here that I can share? But what am I going to learn here that's sacred to me? And what am I going to learn here that's going to help here and in this community and this people? And I'm quite struck that even in this remote place, I was quite moved by the aurora herself, because there's so many indigenous stories that honor who the aurora is and what it stands for and the meaning behind it being the ancestors dancing. And I'll show you this video just of my reaction. It doesn't do it justice, right? So we didn't really know he was filming. It was so dark. So it was a really nice surprise to get this, because that moment, it was fleeting for me, right? It was just an intense emotion, an intense experience with nature. But while we do this is because we're capturing film, we're capturing images. And I'm constantly doing education and outreach with students, you know, from kindergarten to university. And it's, how do I take what I've experienced with people and with nature, and how do I give back so that emerging leaders understand kind of the breadth of what the world has to offer and the extent to which they also have permission and access to all of these places, and maybe inspiring, you know, a young adventurer and explorer early on so that they can choose like to do something meaningful and innovative with their career early. So for me, the exploration definition I've given, my experience has been very multifaceted, but it is really just how am I giving back to the world? And I think many of us do that. We travel, we experience, we engage, and then you like, what do you do with it afterwards? How do you share that? How do you embrace that? And how do you celebrate and give it back? Because you know, I don't want to leave a place with thank you so much, and now I'm leaving. I'm constantly thinking about, can I come back to this community? Can I offer them something else? And what part of their story do they want told? And what part do they not want told? And what can I bring back to them, technology that might inform policies for them or adaptive strategies for climate. So I'm constantly trying to be that link between where I've been and to the future. So that's about a really tight nutshell of what I've been doing.
That was wonderful. I feel like there's so many different kinds of things. We wanted to open it up for questions. So it's a small group. You can raise your hand. You can just ask a question. Now they're all going to stare.
It's okay.
I know there's some space people out there.
Yeah, what was it? I mean, I work with so many different space people. I mean, I just openly, when I work with astronauts and we do research together, it's really interesting to know kind of what the trajectory of after you go to space, what you do on Earth, and what does that matter?
Well, I'll ask you. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had a question, not about space.
This is Gail, Bachelor.
Yeah, hi, and Doug's over.
Doug is there too. Okay, good.
We're both incognito here. We'll figure it out. But did you see many polar bears when you were looking?
No, we saw one.
Yeah.
And we saw one alive and one that they call the Grinch, whose body has been, I don't know if most of you know, like the body has been there, I don't know how many years. You can kind of drive by it on a ship. And the reason is because it was the one polar bear that got sick and was attacking reindeer, and they believed had a disease. And so they're not allowed to touch the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were in the Arctic a couple months ago, and I was struck by how few animals we saw. It was in Inuit, where the Inuit can hunt and fish. We saw so few polar bears, reindeers, whales, because over the century, that's been their source of food and their livelihood. But it was something where my expectations were that I would see some. We were very surprised to see so few, whereas in other places, we saw a lot of them. So it was interesting, not, that it was just devoid of animals. And
it's quite shocking. It is.
Yeah.
And I show you this because if you look here, this is me sitting with the president of Polar Bear International.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was on our expedition, and you think about these conversations that we're having are that, that's him right down in the middle picture on the bottom.
Yeah.
With his hands on the table. And the striking changes that are happening in the Arctic quite rapidly, and more rapidly than the rest of the world is aware of,
Right.
Yeah.
2 degrees somewhere else is 10 degrees in the Arctic. The plight of the polar bears. I mean, this year, Mitty and Paul Nicklin,
Yeah.
the photographers, they showed 2 polar bears that they came across in their expedition that were both that died of starvation. And that is in one season, when in 30 years they hadn't seen that many. And you just think that's highly not just unusual, it's just devastating.
The Polar Bear International have established themselves in Churchill, and they actually have a trailer out. And again, spotting and looking, they were in that area. Were saying that there was a decreasing number there too. A lot of that had to do with the food source. The ice was not freezing fast enough for them to feed. And so what they did is they just went elsewhere to hunt. So it was shocking the whole thing was shocking to us. Plus the whole climate, the changes, the glaciers receding. It was very educational.
You don't see it until you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
Melissa, you want to go ahead?
Oh,
Thanks,
sure.
Gail.
Thanks.
And Doug.
Hi, I was wondering, so your path to space and all this exploration is not traditional. What do you recommend for, students, young people starting out that want to end up where you are, 10 years down the road, doing projects that go into space, working with astronauts? And I mean, is it education? Is it volunteering? Is it getting a job? Is it working with disasters? What do you recommend?
Well, I remember the former director general of ESA when he was leaving. Everybody's like, "How do I become an astronaut?" And he's like, "Can I just say?" And I also agree. You go up to space, you come back, and that's it. That's like you need to have meaning on Earth. So it's better to follow your passion. And I have a lot of students who want to go into fashion or makeup, and they feel that they don't have a place here. As no, you follow what you're interested in. And the space industry, period, has a spectrum of opportunities now that just weren't there 10 years ago, right? And I mean, Dina, you probably agree that anyone can enter and create their narrative and their journey in space now. I mean, you have Prada making spacesuits. You have, the person who taught me to be a spacesuit technician was the robotics designer for the Victoria's Secret wings, and now he's making spacesuits. And you have L'Oreal sending vials of makeup into space to see how Vection works and how they stick to the skin. You have longevity scientists who want to extend life on Earth, but they're like, how do we do it in microgravity? And can we extend our life longer? And can we live to 150 years old? There's just this whole, open door and open field. So most of the time I tell them, follow what you really care about, what you're excited about. Because if you dedicate yourself to that, there will be a place for it in the space industry. There will be a place for it if you want to go to space. And there's certainly a place for it around the planet. Because when you start forcing your path, it doesn't work. You force something and it's like, it's not working out for you. Yeah, so I genuinely believe that if somebody wants to be a musician, there's a space for that as well. We're looking at what are those sounds from Mars? What is that? What does sound mean for plants growing off Earth? Can soil, if we put music into soil, will it grow on the ISS? There's all these different aspects that are they're mind-boggling, but there's just room for so many different innovations, and we need everyone.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question that was going to actually piggyback a little bit on Melissa's. Mine was similar, but it was more about, you've done so many different kinds of things with so many different groups, and you've talked about the expeditions you've done. How do you go about making those contacts? So I understand about following your passion, but are you sending emails? Are you connecting with people on social media? How are you making those how are you fulfilling your passions? How are you what are the steps to getting to that place?
That's a good question. I guess all of the above. I will say this, for those of you who know what business intelligence gathering is. I mean, I'm sure everybody is aware, like when you do business intelligence gathering, you're kind of cold calling, you're making, it's like grassroots campaigning, you're knocking on doors. And I've always felt that the quickest connection to someone is direct. So I'm not afraid to send an email, and I will always say, I found your email here and I'm excited about what you do, and this is what I want. I will make a phone call and it's like, I found your number online if it's public, or someone gave me your information. Do you mind if I give you a call? I don't ever mind that, because the worst thing that can happen is no one answers. No one has ever told me no and hung up on me. And then certainly at conferences, obviously that's the opportunity to walk up to someone and like, I've been hoping to meet you, and, making that introduction. So I'm built that way, where I'm not afraid to go up to somebody and start a conversation or make a connection. But I don't fear it, because we're all human. And I certainly love when people come up to me or email and say, hey, I would like to connect. And it's like, okay, it's a chance to learn. So, so all of them.
Okay.
And to be fair, when I went from humanitarian work to space in 2017, I went on LinkedIn and I took a few weeks of looking at who has the title of what I think is my dream job.
Interesting.
And I cold contacted, like, I really like what your job sounds like. Would you be willing to do an informal, like 20-minute call so I can learn more about what you do in the military and everyone said yes.
Wow.
Because I think we genuinely want to share about our experience. And then my questions were really, are you happy on a Monday morning? Because I wasn't at the time. I was like, I dreaded my week. Like, do you have purpose in your job? And those conversations, no one's like coming around asking you that. So, that's how I started what am I going to do next? And came into space.
Thank you. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
Zan's hand is up.
So in that same vein, then, I would love to know if I could at some point touch base with you. My background is clinical psych, and my dissertation is focusing on measuring stress in astronauts and predicting it. I would love to touch base about specifically what you looked at monitoring stress through various points on the face and a few other things.
Absolutely. Yes,
Right.
please email me.
Sure, can do.
I am, if you want to put your email address in the chat, or if you want me to just send it out to interested people, but
both. I mean, I don't mind. I'm putting it now. But yes, and to answer what we were specifically the stress that we were looking at for the oral health was those points on the face are where we manifest stress when we eat. And so people would chew gum for a minute, and I had the side view profile and the front view. And over time to see, is it tightening? Are they chewing slower? And what we're hoping to learn is that when we test it in microgravity and then when we put it on the station, will we see changes quickly in how the human body reacts in microgravity? And will that change our appetite? Does that change the way we chew food? Does it change, the condition of our microbiome? Because our eyes, our mouth, our microbiome are all connected. And the eyes are an extension of the brain. And so all of this connection, if one thing is disturbed, then how does it affect the rest of it? And can we anticipate and prevent those stress factors and features in our behavior? So when we look at human health, honestly, people are the doctors and space medical teams, a lot of the time we're like, oh, how do we figure out countermeasures? How are we going to mitigate this XY disease? And how do we, but the big question, and I think more importantly, is how do we prevent it? Because you're not always going to be able to create a pill in space. You can't always conduct surgery. And so countermeasures are limited, right? So we're really looking at how do we feed into this like knowledge base of prevention? And the psychological is so important.
Or even better, can we identify it early? Because the earlier we identify, the earlier we can treat it, the easier it is to treat in most cases.
That's right. That's right. Like pre-onset. Yeah, exactly. And we did have a psychologist, a behavioral psychologist with us in the cave. Interesting for him. And he's now going to Antarctica on a 25-day tracking mission. He'll be doing that expedition next year. And some of us already have our expeditions for next year. Like I'll go to Antarctica, I'll go to Mongolia. Like, so we now are taking like this kind of experience with us. So I'm fascinated from his perspective, what he thought of our group.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. I think there's something that was said also, Dina. I make mention this because I think it's important. It's not very well, I don't know, addressed in American culture at large, and maybe in a lot of cultures, but I think there's something missing when we don't bridge our current actions and our exploration and our knowledge to our elders and to those who came before us. There's a missed opportunity to learn and build on what's already been done instead of like reinventing the wheel. And I see it a lot. I see a lot of, in the field, a new researcher will come in and ask the same question that maybe one of you have already asked. And you're like, oh, I wish they would just ask those who came before them. And so I really make a point to, if we're traveling somewhere, we're going somewhere, I always say, okay, who did this before? Who were the scientists who were already here? who is the first person who did this? Can I talk to them? Can I access them? And I'm surprised that many people don't ask those questions anymore. They don't, I think it's important that we keep that building on other people's knowledge and helping each other.
It's a good point. I think there's such a push to innovate that people want to be doing something that nobody's ever thought of before.
Yeah.
But there are always elements that came before, even if it's not the exact same thing.
Exactly.
The problem is people don't publish. If it's published and you're a good researcher, you can find it. But so much of field research, and they're not held accountable. The problem of the club, a lot of people don't file their expedition reports.
Yes.
And there's no real consequences, except maybe if you want to get another flag, you won't be able to get one. So that it's a problem that people like to go in the field, but they don't like to publish.
And Jim, you actually, the thing I was surprised by, this is my first flag expedition, right, to the cave. And maybe I'm OCD, maybe I'm just like a good researcher and I love to write, like I can write to the end of the day. I turned it in like the day after. I was writing every night, and they said, they made a comment like, no one's ever turned it in this quickly. And I'm like, what? I was scared not to turn it in.
Well, and then it's a question of if they keep it in the archives of the club, even where you can get at it, which is another issue. And then there's, submitting it for peer review, which is another issue, which is more difficult, obviously, because it's vetted. So these are all the problems, but you hit the nail on the head, is people don't, because there's no published data, they try to reinvent the wheel again because they don't know that somebody else has done it.
And I can see, I've been to GLEX twice, and in both periods, speaking to members who've been, doing this for decades, that's their frustration. They're like, I already did that. Like, why didn't you ask? Or, oh, I already did that. Like, this person already did it, and they validate what they did, but it's like, oh, you could have built on that and innovated something completely new on top of a base, a foundation. Yeah. So I think you're absolutely right. I think getting more information out there, peer reviewed or not, and sharing, like, here's what I did and here's how I did it, and not being so scared. I think a lot of I was with the NASA team in Paris doing an outreach event this year, and the university students were like, we're so scared to write. Where do you find time? It's overwhelming. When do I share my knowledge? And I'm like, oh, just do it. Just write a story. You don't have to be a writer, just write it down.
It's pathetic that the academia doesn't require even the professors to publish. There used to be publish or perish was how you got it, tenure at a university. And now I don't think it's the case.
No, it's absolutely required. I think it's
Well,
many
good university would, yeah.
Yeah, many universities require even a book before you achieve tenure. So those are the more research ones, but definitely.
But I tell people, you don't have to be a writer, because there are a lot of people exploring who are dyslexic or intimidated, and I say, well, acknowledge that yourself. You don't have to share that with anybody, but on your phone there's dictation. That's my go-to. I put notes and I'm just talking to my phone and it writes it for me, and boom, my ideas are like saved somewhere. And trust me, that treasure trove 3 months later, I'm like, oh, did I write that down somewhere? Saves me from writing,
And you mentioned conferences. Even if you're not presenting at a conference, just going, registering, sometimes there's student rates. So, I mean, sometimes it's tricky because they could be expensive, but if you are a student, you can get in at a lower price. And just the chance to meet people and talk to people and see papers, it just makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And so it doesn't even have to be far away. We're in the Chicagoland general area here, so there's plenty of stuff that comes through.
And now there's so many options to do virtual too. I like when they do free for virtual. Yeah. I will say, even for the big ones like IAC, the International Astronautical Congress that just took place, $1,500 is outrageous. No one can afford that, right? So your business pays for it. But for those who don't have that kind of money and there's no virtual access, I said, well, you have an opportunity where all the other people are there. you can invest in going and making outside meetings, because the most of the work that happens outside the conference, not in the sessions. And
People
so
do that with the
community.
Explorers Club annual dinner too. There's orbital events. Yeah.
That's right. So I think it's this community, you know, it's been 3 years of me kind of like learning how to navigate, learning how to like make sure I make the right connections, and talking to people and asking who's going here and who's doing that. But I'm really grateful for learning and for meeting more people like this, because you never know where your skill set's wanted or needed, and you never know whose story you can support.
Do you use, or maybe would be the mentor program from the club?
No, I haven't.
It's beneficial,
Yeah.
again, so you're not reinventing the wheel. Plus, you
Good point.
get somebody else's experience and guidance to help you.
Oh, that's a
This is
good
true
point.
for all younger explorers and older ones too, really.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do, I mean, now that I'm back stateside, I'm gonna become, I guess, a national fellow. I have to leave my international fellow status. That might be something I can do. Yeah, so it's just been looking at, you know, I've now sponsored a lot of people to come in, but I will say, when they gave me the grant, and I don't know if it's every grant that the club gives, they offer 1 year free. They're like, okay, with your grant, you get the grant and you get a year free membership. And I already had something from my honorary 16. So I said, I don't need another year free. Can I give it to another woman and pay it forward? And they let me. So I was allowed to give it to another woman. And so I chose a woman of color, a scientist, who is non-traditional, and she got in the club. And then she made the EC50. And so I'm like, that's what I wanted. Like, bring in more. Share and you know, non-traditional knowledge is really important.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really great talk, and I think we had a really nice discussion that followed. Got a little bit more chapter business before we close the meeting, but I really appreciate you coming on, Yvette. I know it's been a busy week and you have not been stateside for very long, so I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for thinking of me. And Dina, I say this, you all are in precious hands and so lucky, because everything you've done and what for this community, for the larger community, for education, is one, it's impactful, but all of my colleagues respect you highly for that. So I'm excited to be connected to all of you. And honestly, anybody has any questions for anything ever, just let me know. And now, you know, I'm looking for another home chapter.
Well, you could be affiliated
Join
with us.
us.
I can
There
put
you
you on the
go.
mailing list.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And yeah, please.
And you don't have to log off, but we're just going to be talking about a few other things. So
Oh, I'll give you privacy.
you're
No,
good.
you don't have to.
Thank you very
Great
much.
talk.
Okay, and can I find everyone's bios from here? I mean, I want to know what you all do too.
We have not collected bios, but I can ask people for them. That's probably something we should think about putting together, which would be very cool. I don't know if we're going to hear from everybody. We get the usual suspects that come to the Zoom meetings and the in-person meetings. There's a lot of silent people. But yeah, if you want to, I'll have to think about that. We'll
Yeah,
figure
I
out a way to do that. That's a good plan.
Okay, yeah, I just would love to learn more about what everyone's doing, so.
Yeah, I'll see if I can make a request and send that out and see what I get. And I can share it with you.
All right, thank you all so much. I
Everybody.
will log off.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Yvette. Take care. Have a good night.
You
Bye.
too.
All right. So going back to our agenda, we just had the talk and the Q&A. And so I wanted to kind of the last three things, and we're short on time, but on the agenda, I've got discussion of chapter member activities / opportunities. I also have updates and announcements from members and in-person event suggestions, invitations. So I guess what I'm thinking first for discussion of chapter members activities, opportunities, this is more, does anybody have any expeditions coming up? Does anybody have any research that other people could be involved in? That's sort of what I'm thinking for that category.
Oh, I got something.
Okay, Natalie, go for it.
We just officially launched our new trip for January 22nd to the 26th. It's to go to the Playa del Carmen area, and we're gonna have 2 days. Mexico, 2 days of diving, and then the third day is going to be a beach cleanup at one of the cenotes. So the Green Dolphin Project is collaborating with Cenotes Urbanos, as well as a couple of dive organizations down there. So I just posted it on Facebook, and then I'll share it with you, Dina, so that you can share it to the rest of the group.
I cheated. I actually already put it in the minutes because I knew you were going to. I was like, ooh, this is going to be, if you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to mention it too.
All right.
So, no, that sounds great. And your flyer that you made for it is really beautiful.
I worked really hard on that for like a month. So thanks.
So this is a chance to do some diving, to do some cleaning up, and it's in Mexico in January, which is typically a very nice time of year.
Yeah, it's a high time. And then also with the cleanup, there'll be some research done where, you know, we're monitoring the types of garbage that's being collected and stuff like that. So it does go into some research aspect.
Very cool. And what part of Mexico is Playa del Carmen?
It is in the Quintana Roo. So it's by Cancun.
Okay, so pretty far south.
Couple hours south of Cancun.
It's a couple hours south of Cancun.
South of the Cancun airport, Playa del Carmen. Yeah.
So
Near Tulum, in that area.
yeah.
So we can send that around for those who would be interested in that opportunity, which sounds really, really cool. It's my brother's birthday. I'm like, any other activities or opportunities?
So to follow up on the lecture I gave last year, 2 years ago, I guess it was December of 2022.
Yeah, that
with
sounds
the
right.
Egypt work. So we've been we've got more permits, we've got more field research. We're making amazing discoveries, mind-boggling discoveries. We're preparing most of the mind-boggling discoveries have been made in 2024. Areas that were touched upon in the lecture I gave back in 2022, but are really new, different things. If you go to jameswesterman.org and look under the 2023 expeditions, you'll see kind of what we were doing, but in 2024, it took an abrupt turn into new areas that are mind-boggling. That's all I can say. We're just starting to prepare our report. We've been gathering data all year, and yeah, it's I've never heard of anything like it, and I believe it's groundbreaking. It's way over the top. So that's what we're working on.
Westerman?
Yeah, jameswesterman.org. And look
James
at it. And then you go to the website and under expeditions. But that was in 2023 when we got the data loggers, but based on the data we were gathering, led us into a different direction. And we're finding water issues that are, we can't figure them out, frankly. And we're dealing with nothing but hydrogeologists, professor types. So anyway, that's my
Maybe
news.
nice.
Maybe another lecture follow-up.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And I want to say, Dana, it's very nice that you record these and then put them out there.
I've noticed that you've gotten comments on your talk, that because I get notifications when there are comments, and
It's
sometimes
always
people,
about my eyes. It's funny, the people react, you know, the one of my observations was after I drank the water, my eyesight improved. And I I get from all over the world, I get people, where can I get that water? You know, and then a lot of people are interested in water and improving their eyesight. I think we all want our eyesight to be improved, but not about any of the other stuff, anyway, to be continued.
To be continued. Thank you. So I'm putting that under updates and announcements. That sounds right. In terms of in-person events, I've actually got one that I don't know if it'll appeal or not, but I'll mention it because a couple of years ago we had Brother Guy Consolmagno of the Vatican Observatory. He's a physicist and expert on meteorites. He gave a talk at the Fjallraven in Chicago, and several people were there. He's going to be back in town, giving a talk. Kind of, it sounds more like a discussion on Thursday, November 14th at the St. Ignatius College Prep School in Chicago. Maybe some of you Chicago people know where that is. His talk is called An Evening with the Pope's Astronomer. It's definitely, and he made it very clear to me, a fundraiser for the Vatican Observatory, but he's a really personable person. You know what I mean? He's a nice guy. His name's Guy. I should need to be careful with the way I put words together. He is a very engaging speaker. He did win the Carl Sagan Award for Science Communication several years ago. And he's going to be giving that talk, and it does require registration, but it's free. But if you happen to be in Chicago and on a Thursday evening and are looking for something to do, I'll put the excuse me, the URL into the minutes. And I can also put it into the chat right now. And so let me add that. And I also wondered, not to put Natalie on the spot, but did you want to maybe do another take on what you had been planning for October that
Yeah.
didn't
So that closes, that Field Museum exhibit closes on January 5th. So I was gonna try again. So the people I reached out to for speakers though did not either reply or want to. So as long as I get a speaker, I'm good.
I did hear from one person that they might have been open to just a visit, like a group visit to the exhibit without having the
Yeah.
speaker.
Yeah, and that's fine too. Maybe I could do something the weekend of well, people are busy the weekend of Thanksgiving, but maybe the week after.
It could work. Maybe Thanksgiving's really late this year, so maybe it would be probably almost December by that first weekend.
Yeah.
That might work. Chicago at during the holidays is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Which is the exhibit? I mean, what's
Unseen Oceans.
Okay. Are there people in Chicago or who could get to Chicago who would be interested in a field museum field trip?
That
Okay.
one, yes.
You know, I'm in. I'll go to the field museum.
Andre will be there. So depending on the weekend, I could get out there.
Okay.
I'm in Utah till the end of ski season.
I wonder if we could do like a poll
Yeah.
for a couple weekends in December that would work out best for people. My guess is that a Saturday is better than another day just because some of us have to drive. But
Right.
I think something like that could work. My mid-November is pretty packed because I've got a conference in Tampa and then a wedding to go to in Leesburg, Virginia. And then my brother's coming out for Thanksgiving. So,
Nice.
You're
yeah.
not.
What was that?
You're not busy.
No, I'm never busy. Leisure time like crazy.
I
But-
would be interested, but our calendar, I'd have to really check. Gail Bachelor, yeah, because it's just crazy until Christmas, so I'd have to, if you put out a couple of dates, I would do my best.
Yeah, we might be interested, but we've got a lot going on.
We've got a convention, the big diving convention's in 2 weeks in Vegas. And that's where we book all our trips.
And so we don't know if we'll be flying out somewhere or whether we'll be in the country or what we'll do.
Oh, that reminds me, even though it's not connected to anything anybody just said, typically we have some kind of online Zoom gathering in the weeks like between December 26th and January 30th. And usually some of you, I think, have attended that, but it's a very casual, bring your own cocktail, have a conversation, just talk about stuff. Would people still be interested in doing a Zoom like that this year? I'm seeing one nod. Xana's very good at nodding.
Yes.
Okay, there's some thumbs up from other
It's
people.
all those years as a therapist. I listen, but I don't.
Yes. Go on. How
Yes.
does that make you feel, Dina? It makes me feel festive. That's what it does.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Thank you. That's very affirming. I like it.
Or as my mug says, keep talking. I'm diagnosing you.
I don't. I have a similar mug that says, I'm not creeping, I'm doing ethnography. Follow people around and take notes. That's what I do. All right. Is there anything else that people wanted to, do you have anything to brag about? Anything you're excited about? Something that's upcoming that, you mentioned your diving conference. We're in open comments now. All right. Well, then I feel like if I were.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
have to do some bragging now. I just came back
Go for it.
from Kilimanjaro, so made it. That was good.
Oh,
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 Good for you, Z.
did you climb it?
Yeah,
When did you
Oh.
go?
Oh,
When
yeah.
did you go?
September.
September. So give us a little bit more information.
It's a 8-day trip, 8 days climb, with acclimatization, and then you have a window to get to the top. So it was good.
Hmm.
So Tanzania was a great experience, and it's one of those things that I travel on places which were usually in some kind of a bad shape and conflict and many other places, but this was a personal trip, and so both Maggie and I made it
Good.
and really enjoyed the experience as well.
Good.
great.
I love it.
I assume you took photos?
Yes, I did, of course. Yeah.
So are you
It was
going?
not the goal. The goal was an experience. This is one of those things that I could say, we wanted to do that, and we did it. The photography was a secondary thing.
How was your physical? Did all your preparation pan out that you were good
Yeah.
shape, both of you?
Yeah, we did really good. Well, spent all summer actually doing, which actually what we normally do, which is biking and hiking, but more of it, more. But basically, we prepare everything on the low altitude of 600 feet on the Lake Michigan, which it worked with that schedule, which was 8 days from the rainforest to the Arctic. So it was good.
That's very cool. I mean, I have to ask you about the photographs because you have been a professional photographer for so long. So I'm assuming they're good. That's what I'm assuming. I'd like to.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see them. Like if we do a holiday thing, it would be nice for you to show some. So that'd be very.
I can make it short. This is not this is more personal, but of course I do have I shared some on the Facebook, and I even have the questions. I didn't do much. I didn't have an interest in that before, so I never really studied that. But there is some actually non-technical but not easy portions of the climb, which makes a pretty good experience overall. So
that sounds really good.
The next I can make 10 minutes slideshow. That's it's always easy and fun. So it will be great.
Well, I'd love to see it, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So that's really cool. I heard somebody else's voice. Was that you, Zbigniew?
I was gonna say, Zbigniew, you also went for a 4-day safari in the Kilimanjaro area. How was that? Lots of animals?
Yeah, yes. The safari is a pretty predictable phenomenon. We went to Serengeti, Ngorongoro, and Tarangire. But it was, I really don't photograph wildlife much except for deer at my home. So this was more of a scouting trip. So it was a lot of traveling. But yeah, we think we saw whatever people call the big five, the
Yeah.
list is kind of a different, but I guess so most of the species to be seen.
Yeah.
And also I have the pictures of that too, but that's just, I'm not a wildlife photographer, and I'm sure many of you have a portfolio of some wildlife, which I did more moody pictures in the black and white just for my own enjoyment.
I'm gonna let you all go, but I did want to say that I thought Yvette's idea about collecting bios was an
Yeah, that's
interesting.
a good one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna send something out in the next few days and maybe try to give people some encouragement to send stuff sooner rather than later. I'm thinking not more than a few sentences or a paragraph. It's not like an entire resume, but just kind of a, who are you and what do you do and what are you into? And I do think that those who are interested in participating, I can put something together and then also send it out to the chapter members as well.
I thought we did send the bios, short bios, at the beginning when we started meetings. I think we all sent short bios somewhere.
Yeah,
You're right. Yeah. Long time ago, though.
Yeah,
Very
I'm
much.
not sure I know where those are. Melissa?
I always wondered why the club never did that, collected bios on all their members, because you would think that that would be sort of a given. But that's just aside. My other real question was, did we ever hear anything about the membership cards and what they're doing with those? And if they're not going to do them, can we buy one from, wherever, whoever created them or something? Because I always, loved getting my little card in the mail. It was always so exciting. What photo would they have this year?
Yeah, I understand. And that was, like I said, before a big discussion at the chapter chairs workshop, but it seemed like it was falling on sort of deaf ears. Like, no, we're going to have this app, but I haven't seen the app yet either. So maybe it'll fall apart. Also, oops, did I freeze? There we go. Paul, I think, was on here for a while and then logged off again. I don't see him now. He was having a competing event in Minnesota, but I think because he's on the board, he might be the best person to address those questions too, since he probably has some influence and also access to information on a more regular basis. I wasn't able to attend the most recent board meeting, so I did not get any information about that, and I don't know if it came up. But yeah, I would much rather have a physical card too, Melissa. I totally agree with you. So, and I know people who recently joined the club probably would love to have physical cards. So we can keep trying. I don't know, maybe we'll have to come up with a way to have chapter cards. I don't know. Well, I'll have to think about that.
With some of those cards was, it's really hard to find information of reciprocity of the other organizations. I know they post them on the web, but there is no a list which are and card like that and perhaps a letter from a Explorers Club could open some doors if you travel and want to stay some nice place. Or just finding people. I was thinking going to Africa to find a chapter, but the Tanzania didn't have. There is in Africa, there is some membership, but I'm not sure how organized they are. I couldn't find the information quickly.
And I think that made me think of, when you mentioned the African chapter, it made me think of the Polish chapter that I saw at ECAD. And just a reminder that generally the ECAD tickets, the less expensive ones, they're all expensive, but the less expensive ones, usually it's near the end of December, middle of December when those are released.
Don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It seemed to me it was earlier than later in December, but we don't remember for sure.
Yeah, I would just keep an eye on it because we won't be meeting between now and then. And if I find something out, I'll send it out. But if you're interested, especially if you're a newer person and you haven't been and you'd like to go, it makes a big difference. It's exorbitantly expensive rather than unfathomably expensive. I mean,
They have a
Whatever.
new strategy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, the new strategy, I watch like a hawk, is a big new, and I actually have in the past, like, reminded each other when it would be, but about the middle of December, I watched like 10 times a day to see that the email came in, and I swear maybe they just cut the number of slots of doing the early bird special, whatever they call it when you buy it, because they were gone right away. And either that or there was some heads up to people, you know, at the club sent out a heads up to somebody personally. Well, we didn't get it for 2 years in a row, and we get them every year before that.
Hmm.
So I'm
We've,
suspicious.
yeah, I think if anybody finds out, that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Paul, you're back on and we're about to log off, but anything going on at the board of directors or the leadership of the Explorers Club about whether we can have physical membership cards?
He's
Oh,
muted.
you're muted.
Sorry. I just dropped off the Minnesota little group, Bolor Minjin from the club was in Minneapolis for a conference. And so Bob O'Hara, member of our chapter since 1978. And yeah, he couldn't say enough good things about the organizational efforts you've done of what he's seen in the group since 78. But we had a really nice little get together there. And I just dropped off Belore for her conference night. I apologize for not being more present during the meeting. I'll send everyone a picture. No updates on the membership card, but we're talking about like the timing of, there's several membership questions that I will send an email update with that to the chapter. One of the things Bob showed us is his membership certificate from 1978 that he's super proud of. And it's beautiful. And it's like, I don't know when we stop making beautiful certificates like that.
We've been after that, trying to
For
get that
3
done for
years.
3 years.
Mhm.
They said they were going to start and back up, but we haven't heard a thing. But if we
Good.
can all just keep on them.
Okay.
When we became members, they said we would get them,
But
and then they quit them.
then it was a
Yeah.
pandemic, and then they quit them.
Those of us who came on in 2020.
And then they want to start with the newest members and
work
go
their way back.
backwards. And we said, no, start with the ones that haven't gotten it and work your way forward. But either way, nobody's getting them that we know of. Yeah.
Okay.
But we're all trying to push for it. It was a big push at ECAD to bring them back.
I keep
Right.
talking to them, we pay our membership, saying it's nice that we pay our membership, but we haven't gotten what we were promised.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just maneuvering out of something.
I know. I'm sorry I put you on the spot while you're
No.
driving.
No, the other update that I would give to the group is we just had a board of directors meeting.
Mhm.
I think this is as good a spot as anyone to pull over. No significant updates out of that other than we have the nominations open for the next president. And so those discussions are happening. And then also the board of directors, the call for nominations for that went out. What I would just offer from my own personal perspective, it's super easy for people in that room to like kind of not necessarily think about things from the chapter's perspective. And I'm hopeful that both the next president and the next slate of directors have some good perspectives of the things like what you guys are talking about there in the chapter. Bob shared with me, remember since 1978, and he's done like first ascents of the guy is just a gem of the club. And he's never did a flag expedition, and he applied many times, but he never felt like he was in the cool group of the club. And from my perspective, no one should ever feel excluded from the core. The one sentence mission statement of the club is to be a meeting place for explorers, so, for all explorers. So
That's a good point.
anything else to add, Deanna?
No, but I think I better let people go
Okay.
because it is past
Will
9.
anybody be at Lowell Thomas?
I won't be. Anybody going down to Texas?
I will be. If anybody's there, please find me.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Good.
Good night.
Have a
Okay.
great
Bye.
evening.
Thanks.
Bye.
To see you soon. Bye-bye.